Hi, my name is Wayland Chiu. I'm a second-year medical student here at Mount Sinai, and I am one of the co-leaders for the APAMSA chapter here. And I'm sitting here with Ashley Michelle Fowler, who I've had the immense pleasure of working with as one of the co-advisors for APAMSA. And today we're just going to be discussing our experiences. And so I guess I wanted to ask you first, what does being Asian mean to you?
I think for me, being Asian is this ongoing journey of learning and existing, but I think I wasn't brought into a really good understanding of it. My mother is Filipino and French Canadian, and my father is Irish and Italian, and so I have this kind of mix. My Filipino grandfather died when my mother was 10 years old. And so then my French-Canadian immigrant grandmother was raising her 6 kids in the 1970s in the Bronx. And I think just as a protective mechanism, raised her children in really white normative ways. And so then when my mother married my white father, it was really that much more removed. So it wasn't until, I left the house and throughout my adult life that I really started exploring what these unique features about me visually and kind of internally meant and how that shaped who I was. And so I went on a journey to discover more about my grandfather and his culture. And I think that in spite of not being born into the culture, I was able to, just contextualize like how people interact with me as a brown-skinned woman in this world. How about for you? How did that show up for you?
As for me, being Asian especially an Asian American, is a very unique experience because in the US, you're not quite accepted as an American. And when I've been to Taiwan in the past, I would be always referenced as the American kid. And so even among people who I should be, the in-group with, I was still considered an outsider. And so I think as an Asian American, I live in this middle ground where I'm not part of either group.
Asian American isn't like really a thing. Asian really isn't a thing. It's like, we have like such distinct identities and experiences and foods and clothes and celebrations and so it's like, there's all this lumping together of people. And I think about like how drastically different some of our experiences are, right? Like when I think of like the model minority myth and some of the things it's like telling us, right? Of like, Asians are like good at math and like are all in STEM and are hard workers and like start businesses and make lots of money and, and it's like the American dream. And the reality is, for a lot of Asian Americans, that's just not their truth, right? And so for me, like growing up in poverty, in the Bronx, being the first one in my family to go to college, I didn't have these things that were inherently true. And so the model minority myth has just like been so damaging because it causes so much harm for those of us who are trying to like either fit within it or reconcile why we don't.
It creates this perception that other people of color aren't working as hard, or the fact that they aren't able to achieve success really reinforces any negative stereotypes that we have by saying like, oh, you're not working as hard. And I think that is very destructive. That's something that kind of like galvanized me to be an advocate for other people of color, to try and find ways to deconstruct those biases.
And you know what, it's funny because in diversity, equity, and inclusion work, we have this term of like the oppression Olympics, where it's like this competition to see like who's struggling the most. I think there's some value to understanding that the levels of oppression are relative and that some people truly do have less and some have more. And I think by like coalescing and by coming together as communities of color, we are going to stand unified. And it's not about me getting mine, it's about all of us getting ours. Wayland, I could talk to you all day. I'm just so thankful for everything that you bring to our community, and thank you for like the ways that you teach me and inform my life. And let's keep the conversation going.
Sounds great. And I'm very inspired by you and all the work that you do, and I thank you for being a continued advisor for APAMSA.